it's Julie from Lady Bits PT. Stay. And this is Tiger, my sidekick. Sit. My very well-trained sidekick. Sit. Thank you. Stay. And this particular video is going to be addressing sciatic pain when it's caused by stenosis. So if you have stenosis, chances are you've been diagnosed by your doctor, not me. You've already had the x-ray to reveal that there is in fact less space around the nerve in your back. So stenosis, let's talk about it. It is caused when typically we're in our later decades of life, so maybe 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond. And it's the accumulation of wear and tear on the spine. So by then, sit, sit, sit. Thank you. Stay. Yes. So, sorry for the interruption. So over time, the discs shrink a little bit, they lose a little disc height, and the bones actually get closer together. So these little segments of the nerves coming out of that little space, they can really get jammed as the bones, this little space, grows closer and closer together till there's finally pressure on this nerve from the bones themselves. So you've probably already been diagnosed with an x-ray or hopefully, and that's how you found this video. This particular set of education is just for people with stenosis. So it typically happens later on in life, and you will typically have nerve pain. Could be one or both legs. It could be a cramping, sharp shooting, numb, burning, any one of those things. It could be going down one or both of your legs all the way down to your toes. And typically you're going to feel it when you're laying flat on your back. You're not going to like that. You'll feel it if you're standing still for a long period of time, say you're waiting in line at the grocery store, or you're standing at the kitchen sink doing dishes or cooking, and you've been standing there for a while, and your spine's just stacking and stacking and stacking and stacking, and then you get that nerve pain. So if that sounds like you, some of this information might be helpful. So again, none of this is my information. This is information I have learned from a physiotherapist in Australia named Mr. Robin McKenzie. He's since passed away. However, he passed on some really fabulous information. So he found that repetitive flexion would take the pressure off the nerve and often give people the relief they were seeking. So I'm just going to walk you through that thought process today. So before you try this, you first do a body scan and you ask yourself, what am I feeling? How bad does it hurt? So you know where your baseline is. And then I'm going to have you try one of 3 movements. Now the rule is, if it makes you worse, you stop and you don't continue on and you don't even try it. None of these are designed to make anything worse. In fact, you're supposed to get almost instantaneous results. So you should know right away if one of these 3 movements is going to be good for you. So we're going to start with the least amount of force, and I'm going to demonstrate up to the most amount of force. The goal is to find the movement with the least amount of force that gives you the most symptomatic relief. And you're going to do that movement maybe 10 or 20 repetitions every few hours. So let me demonstrate. So the least amount of force would be laying on your back. And you can do this in bed or on the floor. And you're simply going to pull your knees up to your shoulders and give them a good squeeze, and then send them away. Pull the knees up to the shoulders or as close as you can get, give them a good squeeze and send them away. And you can make them nice and wide so your stomach doesn't get in the way. It doesn't matter if they're narrow or they're wide, either one is good. And you don't have to hold it for a long period of time. The idea is we're just creating a gap in the spine and getting more blood flow to that nerve. And motion is lotion. So it seems a little counterintuitive that we would hold it and then let it go, but actually the more motion, the better. So you're gonna do 10, maybe 20 repetitions, and they're gonna slowly come back up into sitting or even standing. And then you're gonna reassess, how does it feel? How does that nerve pain feel? If it's getting better, but not all the way better, do some more until you've gotten as good as you can be. So the idea is you do it until you plateau. So for some people that might mean only 10 or 20 reps. I've had a patient who needed 200 repetitions. Her case was so severe and been going on for so long and was so chronic. She needed 200 repetitions to make that nerve pain go away. But the beautiful thing about this is over time, you need less. So initially, if you've been very symptomatic, you need a lot of repetitions until your symptoms go away. And then you give yourself that medicine dose. So if that worked for you, great. But if it didn't quite hit it, the next movement would be, assuming you don't have a big giant dog between your feet, you're gonna sit in a chair, come forward, grab your ankles and pull yourself down to the floor. And then come back up. It's hard for me not to love all over my dog here, but grab your ankles, come on down, pull yourself down, give a dog a hug if you find a dog down there, and come back up. And you would try that 10 or 20 times, and then you would stand up and ask yourself, how does it feel? And again, if that works for you, fantastic, that's your movement. Movement is medicine. So essentially you do that particular set of movement, if that's the one that works for you, 10 or 20 repetitions. Every few hours or as often as you have symptoms. And if that's not enough, and I hate to even recommend this because often case it might be that you're a little bit older and your balance may not be perfect and maybe you have a dog to work around. But if laying down doesn't do the trick and then sitting down doesn't do the trick, the next movement would be standing. Stand up, bend over, come on down, and then work your way back up. So you repeat that. You might do that again 10 or 20 times. And then you ask yourself, how do I feel now? So the patients I've worked with in the past who have verified stenosis, they tend to do very well when they're consistent, which means if you have symptoms, you do the movement. And for those people who've been consistent, they find that over time, they get the symptoms less often, less severe, and they have to do less and less repetitions to have relief. So you might find you're doing this a couple times a day, and then over time you're doing it less and less often, maybe once a day, or maybe you just need it a few times a day to stay symptom free, and that's better than a surgery. If you can avoid a surgery, it's always good to avoid. So I hope this was helpful information for you. This is information and education only. I am not treating or diagnosing any condition here, but I've had some requests to do a video about this. So I hope this was helpful for you. I hope you enjoyed my sidekick, Tiger. He's a golden doodle at 5 years old. And I hope you and your back and your side good health. Take care.